Hey, good morning, Lauren, Jeff. Come on in, get your coffee. It's time for Coffee with Scott Adams. I think I need some kind of an announcer like they have on the Tonight Show. Somebody who does my intro better than I do it. And now, you've all been waiting for Coffee with Scott Adams. Wouldn't that be way more exciting than what you just heard? You have your coffee yet? This is way better if you're drinking coffee at the same time. You know why? Because then no matter what I say, it doesn't matter. At least you're drinking coffee. Can't go wrong. Good morning. Almost ready. Is there a Trump speech today? I guess there's one every day. No, I'm not watching. He's pretty high energy. So, I got a question for you. Every day that Clinton is missing from the campaign trail, or even funnier, the days that she's on the campaign trail, but conspiracy theorists are sure that it's actually a green screen. How long does she have to go at this reduced schedule before people, even supporters, say, uh-oh, that's more than just a pneumonia? There's something else going on here. How long does pneumonia last? Is that sort of a 2 weeks and done sort of a thing? She canceled her events yesterday. Canceled more events. Yeah, how long can the news... I mean, think about the news cycle. This has been the news cycle for a while now. Trump says something about policies. Doesn't matter if it's not enough details, doesn't matter if you agree with it, but he's talking about the economy and immigration and stuff, so he's talking about policies. Meanwhile, the news on Clinton is she's sick, she canceled an event, and she called Donald Trump names. Her entire campaign has turned into something sick. The things she says are sick. She seems to be sick. And if you saw how CNN went after Trump, calling his statement about profiling, they labeled it racial profiling yesterday. By the way, that's the most retweets I've ever gotten on a tweet. It's got over 8,000 retweets. I think my previous high was just a few thousand, I think. Trump Jr. Yeah, right. So the news is talking about Skittles and insults. I've got a friend who's super liberal, big Clinton supporter, and he's arguing that Trump is, you know me, right? So even though it's just email, I'm slowly hypnotizing him. But he's sure that he can't be hypnotized, which is the funny part, because as soon as you say that, you're pretty much done. So one by one, I point out the ridiculousness of his claims, which doesn't really take any effort, because if you're being even a little bit objective about it, they're both insulting each other, they're both liars, none of their plans add up, none of their budgets add up. So every time he says something about Trump, I just point out that, for example, he says, but, Trump is just insulting people. And I'll say, within the last day, Clinton has called Trump a racist, a homophobe, 10 different insults. And then my friend will say, and he'll be completely serious about it. He'll say, yeah, but the difference is those things are true. Blah, 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 blah. Imagine this. It's one of the most rational friends I have, and he's watching the race, and he's under the impression that only one side is insulting. How could you possibly be missing the race more than that? I mean, if you want to understand cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias, just look at the fact that Democrats think only one side is insulting. And the reason they think that, I think my friend would be representative of that. The reason they think that only Trump is doing the insulting is that they think when their side does the insulting, they're talking about facts. So when they call Trump a fascist, they're not thinking that's an insult. They're thinking, "Oh, I'm just describing the reality." But when Trump calls Gates dopey, after Gates had insulted him, and by the way, what could be a milder insult coming from Trump than dopey? I mean, really? Is that so? So after I pointed out to my friend that both sides are deeply insulting, and it's more insults than I've ever seen, ever in one place at one time, and it's coming from both sides, and it's continuous on both sides. That's the point where he retreated to that Trump is setting a bad example. He's lowering the discourse. He's turning us into more coarse people. He's by his example, he's lowering the standards of not just government, but of polite, polite behavior in general. He's just lowering the standards. And, I got tired of sending email, but I'm thinking to myself, is that really the way it works? Because do you remember when Clinton got a blowjob when Bill Clinton got blowjobs in the White House? Did that make all of you go out and get blowjobs in the White House? Because I know I felt totally influenced by that. Because I've been, getting my blowjobs mostly in different places. And I'm thinking, oh my God, now that the President of the United States is getting blown in the White House, I better start doing that. Because that's how I get my role modeling. If the President's doing it, damn it, I'm going to do it. Not only that, I'm old enough to remember Richard Nixon. So when he was breaking into people's, he had his people breaking into the Watergate and bugging it. I couldn't stop fucking doing that. All my friends, I bugged all their houses. Snuck in when they weren't there. Broke in. Not personally, obviously, not personally. I hired my own burglars to do this. But as soon as the president starts acting one way, there I go. Next thing you know, I've got to act like the president. And now I know that, that when John Kennedy stopped wearing hats, the men stopped wearing hats. So, there's no doubt that people are influenced by this stuff. And I'm sure that there are bullies in school who used some of Trump's language to bully other people. No doubt about it, right? But here's the thing. Have you ever met a bully? Do they really need reasons? No, the bully just gives whatever reason is handy. The reason a bully is because they're fucking born bullies. They're broken. They're just broken people. They don't need a reason to be a bully. Do you think there's a bully today who went to school? He's like feeling like, I feel like doing a little bullying today. And he's like, oh, what was in the news lately? Nothing? I have no reason to bully today? Ah, let me check the news again. No, what did Trump do? Damn it, he went to a black church and said nice things. How am I going to bully today? All my bullying, my incentive is gone now that Trump is acting like a nice guy. So it's okay to be a racist? No! Why don't you ask your fucking questions that are stupid somewhere else? I've told you, I've told you how to identify cognitive dissonance when you're looking at tweets. They almost always, the most frequent way they start is with the word so. Because anything that follows the word so is a complete misstatement of whatever you said. So when Trump says, hey, we should do more profiling. Now, normal people with normal brains say, oh, profiling, like an FBI profiler. They'll use every variable, including race, but every variable that's predictive, because that's how you do profiling. And guess what? That's exactly how we're doing it right now. Do you think that the United States government is not using racial profiling right now? Do you really think that's true? I don't. I think they have big data. They look at anything that's predictive. And in some cases, race is one of the predictive things. So of course they do. Of course they do. To think that they're not doing racial profiling now for immigration, yeah, I'm not talking about the police. I'm talking about just immigration policy. Of course they're doing it now. So what Trump is suggesting is just basically the same policy we have. He just wants to do it better. But, it's a campaign, so you act like it's not happening, and you'll be the first one who thought of it. So anyway, I was saying that look for the word "so" as a tell for cognitive dissonance. So when Trump says, let's do, more profiling, that causes people to say the word "so," first of all. So, you're saying we should round people up and put them in concentration camps? No. Everything that came after the word "so" was your hallucination. I don't have to answer any question that comes after the word "so." That's my new rule. If you start your sentence with "so," you're just talking to yourself. And if you can't even reword it without "so," you're just talking to yourself. Yeah, you saying green frogs hate beer? So, you're racist. Yeah, that's how it works. So, so you hate criticism. Do you remember your other tells for cognitive dissonance? Wow, LOL, OMG. Yeah. Now, those by themselves are not tells. So is just always a tell. But the other ones, OMG, LOL, wow, they are a tell if what follows is not an argument. So if somebody says, wow, I guess we know what you're thinking, then that's just cognitive dissonance. But if somebody says, wow, if you look at this link, you'll see your numbers are wrong, then that's probably just somebody who's saying wow. It doesn't mean anything. So wow by itself doesn't mean anything. LOL doesn't mean anything. OMG doesn't mean anything by itself. But if what follows is just an insult or a ridiculous observation, then it's pretty much always cognitive dissonance. Listen? I have to watch for that one. I don't know. Well, not so much. Have you heard the job with bless his soul? Have you heard that job? I'll tell you that joke now. If you want to hear a joke, stay here. So there were two older Southern women in their declining years, and they're on the porch of the rest home or something, and they're rocking away. And one says, see this ring on my finger? And this is a big old diamond ring. She goes, oh, actually, let me change this joke. Oh, you know this joke? Yeah, so they're not that old. They're just older married Southern women. They're on the porch rocking, and one says, you see this ring? It's a big old diamond ring. And her friend says, yes. And she says, my husband, who makes a lot of money, bought this ring for me. And the other one says, bless his soul. And then she says, you see that car out there, that Jaguar? My husband, he's got a really good job. He bought that for me. And the other one says, bless his soul. And then it goes like that until the other one says, and what'd your husband get for you? And the polite one says, well, my husband paid for me to go to etiquette school so I could learn to say bless your soul instead of fuck you. All right. I think I ruined that joke, but you get the idea. So what else is happening today? Looks like the polls. Is it my imagination, or did Trump was surging in the polls and every poll was Trump, 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 And then there have been several polls lately, in the last day or so, in which it looks like Clinton has, regained some momentum, I guess. But don't the new polls look like all the fixed polls, like the NBC poll? Aren't the ones that are coincidentally, Mammoth, don't they look like the ones that might be a little bit fixed? They're all Dem plus 9. Oh, it's an oversampling thing? I don't know if the oversampling thing is as much as you think it is, because aren't there more Democrats than Republicans? Or the counter argument is that more Republicans will show up this time. I did not register for coffee with Ivanka. Pennsylvania looks fixed. Chuck Todd wanted to wait for the NBC poll. Well, isn't Trump up to over 40% chance of winning now? There are more Democrats, but more Republicans show up. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, I'll be your +1 with Ivanka. Bring me along. Well, the Washington Post article hurt Trump. I don't know what that article is, but I can answer that without knowing anything about it. It's the Washington Post, and it's Trump. No, it won't make any difference. I don't even know what the topic is, but I can tell you it won't make any difference. Is my audio cutting out for everybody or just some people? Starbucks. Try your Starbucks. I do a half-hidden burp. I do that a lot. I'm very burpy. How good was Persuasion? It's a required reading. If you want to understand the world, read Persuasion. If you don't, you're going to be walking around in a fog all day. I did Stefan's podcast. What's making that noise? There's an odd noise in my kitchen. Oh yeah, I saw Time gave data to 4 different researchers, and they came back with 4 different results based on how they weighted the likely voters. Oh, it sounded like some kind of water leak or something. That's why I was looking a little freaked. The call is coming from inside the house. No! Drones. So, let me walk you through a scenario. You saw the bomber guy and how much trouble he caused by multiple bombs in multiple places. Now ask yourself how much payload a drone, a hobby drone, can handle. I'm not talking about a military drone. I'm talking about those little ones. I saw some drones that are going to carry 25 pounds. They're like delivery drones. So they'd be, the $30,000 to $40,000 type of drone, but commercial, but still 25 pounds. If you could build a missile that would go to its location, and it only cost you $35,000 or $40,000 to do it, you would have the cheapest military ever. They could still put a payload wherever you wanted it. I've seen a startup demonstrate bigger payloads on smaller drones. So there's still a lot to do with the actual engineering of the blades and the drone itself. Reuters says a tie. Is that new? Did that just come out? Drones don't work. So if you could put a small, I don't know, plastic explosive doesn't cost that much, on a drone and stick it to an old iPhone with GPS, couldn't you just release it and have it go half a mile or however long a drone can go, and deliver the payload right where you want it? And if you did that, wouldn't it be essentially impossible to stop? That's the plot starting point from my book I wrote years ago called The Religion War. Yeah, so I think what's going to happen, here's my prediction for the future. It took me a long time to even talk about this because I didn't want to give anybody any ideas, but now I think everybody has the idea, so I'm not giving anybody an idea. It seems to me that drones with chemical weapons, because chemicals don't weigh very much, just powder, could basically dust a city. And if that happens, so imagine this happens. Imagine terrorists get some drones, they put some anthrax on it or whatever the hell, and they just fly them around scaring the fuck out of people. Let's say they pick one city and they just terrorize it. Now, it doesn't matter how effective the poison is that's in it. It just matters that it exists and that there's drones flying around and you don't know which ones have it and which ones don't. You'd only need a half a dozen drones, which literally terrorists could just throw out of the back of their cars, or just even one terrorist drive around in a van with 6 different drones and just sort of toss them out the sunroof. You could take down a city, basically, because you could cause mass panic, etc. So they're thinking about drones, they're thinking about chemicals and bombs and stuff like that. So that's happening, right? So let me ask you this. What happens when you think the terrorists are doing something at that scale, basically taking out a city? Now, this bomber guy did a little bit of that because he did multiple bombs, but it turns out they were so bad that mostly he was blowing up garbage receptacles, so he wasn't exactly a master terrorist. A half dozen bags around the city does the same thing. No, it doesn't, because actually looking up and seeing the drone go by is a whole different level of scary. So what I predicted in the book is that when that happens, the Western countries, especially if Russia is involved, are just going to seal the border in ISIS territory and eradicate it. They'll just get rid of everybody. But the first thing they'll do is get rid of communication in or out of the area. So, by the way, can people make a cell phone call in ISIS territory? Or even a satellite call in ISIS territory? Is that even possible? Yep, they will go Roman. They'll go Roman when they need to. See, the problem is you can't get to every distributed terrorist everywhere. But you can take out the mothership, right? And if the mothership is ISIS territory, and again, I have to be clear, I'm not recommending this, I'm just predicting it, that if the terrorists take their terror up to a higher level than it is now, right now it's sort of manageable, some stuff blows up, some people die, but there's still 6 billion of us that weren't affected. If they take it up to, say, a city level, where there's an extended period where there's some, let's say, hobby-sized drones flying around the city, some of them have anthrax, some of them don't, whatever, and you have this mass panic, that would probably be a tipping point. And at that point, our drones would all be armed and creating this digital ring around ISIS territory, and nothing's going out and nothing's coming in. And at that point, because Russia is unlikely to talk behind our back because they're going to do some serious shit, I think Russia and the United States will just essentially eradicate the human population in ISIS territory. Now, I think they would try to filter out the women and the innocents as best they could, but they're going to do what they have to do. And I think, let me ask you this. How much reporting do we get out of ISIS territory now? When was the last time you heard a report from ISIS-held territory that didn't come from the military? Let me put that question to you. Tell me what stories you've heard from ISIS-held territory that come directly from the media or individuals, and not from the military. Almost none. Zero. Almost none. Do you know why? Russia reports, yeah. I'm sure you could believe Russia's reports. Nothing recently, no media there. That's step one. Step one is no media there because it's too dangerous. So that's probably where we are. Now, given that we can completely control the situation now, how do we even know, for example, that 60 plus Syrian military were killed by accident in a bombing attack? How do we know that? Well, it probably wasn't our military, the U.S. military, that said it first. Probably wasn't Russian military that said it first. So it probably was the Syrian army itself, who somehow communicated to their home base and somehow got that information out. Maybe. Both parties agreed it was true. Right. Isn't that interesting? That the U.S. agreed it was true, Russia agreed it was true, and the Syrian military agreed it was true. That's why I suspect that may have been more intentional than unintentional. That has, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying that you can't believe anything that comes out of a war zone, just in general. If it comes out of a war zone, it's probably propaganda. It's probably not real. So why would the United States want to admit that it killed 60 Syrian soldiers by accident? Well, one is they thought it would get out anyway, so they're just getting ahead of it and they're being good guys. The other way is to tell Syria, we're going to bomb your guys if you don't do what we want. And that looks like that's what happened. Looks like they declared a ceasefire. They didn't like what they were getting from Syria, so they just took out some of their army and said, oops. That's what it looks like to me. To provoke Russia? No, they have no reason to provoke Russia. That would be the dumbest idea ever. What about people like the Unabomber? What about them? Do you think the Unabomber is like some trend we got to worry about? Got to watch out for all those Unabombers, because there was one ever, one that did a good job anyway. Good job meaning killing a lot of people, so I guess that's a bad job. Russia's not the big threat. Well, not in terms of terrorism. Bombers with unibrows, probably a lot of those. So let me go back to that question. Doesn't it seem to you that the media reports, with the exception of something big like killing 60 Syrian soldiers, which Syria wants to report, because in general Syria doesn't want to report anything either, does it? Not so much. So don't you think phase one has been accomplished, which is the media has been removed from ISIS territory? That's got to be step one, right? Because if you're really, really going to get dark, and I got a feeling that's going to happen whether you have President Trump or not, I think that's happening right now. If you want to go dark, you got to get rid of the media, and I think that's what's happened. Let me throw out another idea for you. So Trump is being accused. This is just brainstorming here. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. But Trump is being accused of being racist for his immigration policy. But what? Suppose he said, we will allow in all female Muslims, just, with a little bit of vetting. But for the most part, let's just say we decide to let them all in. What would it do to the conversation? Yeah, it is a little bit brainstorming for my blog. What would happen if we let all the female Muslims in with some vetting, but we didn't allow in any males over the age of whenever we thought they could get radicalized, over the age of 6 or something, and kids under 6, let's say. Now, if they don't want to come in because they don't want to leave their husband or their wife or their kids, that's fine. But suppose we just, as a policy, just said we allowed it in. Now, obviously, some of them would be terrorists too, right? But we know from experience there would be fewer of them. It would be gross and sexist, yes, but I'm suggesting something sexist. Because wouldn't that women are a threat? But relatively speaking, because here's what I like about the idea. Canada is doing no single men. Really? Polygamous marriages. Send more chicks. Because once we get... So what I like about this idea, not that it's a good idea, but the part of it I like, part of it I like is that it reframes the situation. Because right now the framing is that we're discriminating against a race and that we're discriminating against a religion. Now you can argue whether those are true or not true, but that's the argument going on. But if we sliced it again and said, yeah, the women can come because statistically they're not as the same kind of risk. Wouldn't that change the argument? Because it kind of gets rid of the whole anti-religion and even or even the racist problem, because the women have the religion and the women have the same ethnicities. So if we're letting pretty much all of them in, female cousins or additional wives, yeah. We aren't allowed to adopt Muslim children, is that true? Yeah, ISIS uses persuasion, but they use it in the form of a drug. The drug is, I forget what, somebody knows the name of the drug, but they take a drug that makes them really brave, and I don't think they feel pain the same, and they become like just animals, so they just, it's like PCP in its effect, but it's some other drug. Anyone who inbreeds, how would you know? Brad Pitt comment. So, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, on paper, was there ever a couple who were less likely to succeed? Yeah, but just on paper. Peyote. Most Muslims, yeah, who the hell cares? Cat is the new drug. Is it cat? I thought it was something else. That's just the nickname, right? It's ketamine or something like that. But cat is short for, I think the real drug is like ketamine or something. It's a plant you chew. Yeah, that sounds like something else. In Fiji, they chewed that stuff. Ketamine. Okay, that sounds right. Larry King? No, I've never been on Larry King. Yeah, so the stuff on Hillary's eye movement, at first I thought it was just some interesting editing, but it looks like it might be real, that the eye is moving in different directions. So the irony is thick here. So what are the odds that Hillary Clinton would be the Clinton with the wandering eye? Doesn't that just seem like that ought to be her husband? Or does do her eyes point in different directions because she evolved to keep one eye on Bill? So she's always going to have this one eye that's looking this way while the other eye is looking at you. Hillary plane crash. Is there a WikiLeaks coming out now? You're terrible. Thank you. I think she'll debate. If she doesn't debate, she's just conceding the election, don't you think? Mad Eye Moody. More jokes, please. All my jokes are inappropriate. I don't know what to care. I'm not sure how much I want to care about George Soros. CNN trying to get Trump to give a press conference. Well, it's amusing because I didn't know that he had not given press conferences since he's the most available person in the world to the media, unless your name is CNN, apparently. But CNN has only itself to blame. I mean, they've been so in the tank for Clinton that I don't think it would be wise for Trump to appear on the network, would it? I mean, why would he? I'll tell you where I lost it with CNN. So that was yesterday when they paraphrased in quotes Trump's statement about profiling, and they added the word racial. They put it in quotes and said that he's suggesting racial profiling. Now, I think race will be a component of any kind of profiling, and it's no doubt it's a component of our current vetting situation, whether we say it explicitly or not. So he wasn't even suggesting anything. But adding the word racial to it was, seemed to me, simply there for no other reason than to get people not to support him. So, Aaron Burnett acknowledged the error, but didn't apologize. Well, I don't really need apologies. So, Aaron Burnett, tell me more about that. I didn't see it. When did she do it? Yesterday? The same day? When did she disavow it? You got Aaron Burnett to apologize. Well, it says she didn't apologize. She did. There was a good clip. Oh, okay. Well, I'll take a look at that. Because my rule in life is that everybody makes mistakes, right? So I tend to judge people by how they handle their mistakes, not whether they had a mistake in the first place. So if she handled it right, well, I'm all good. Just acknowledge it, tell us why, move on. I don't require an apology per se. I mean, if when the news makes a mistake, I'm not sure an apology is even the right thing. It's just a mistake. A mistake's a mistake. Then ran an article reaffirming it. Yeah. It was during the interview you tweeted. She got corrected 4 times. So need to see the whole interview. But keep in mind, I'll have to watch Kellyanne on Bill Maher. That would be interesting. Clinton Foundation. All right, I'm going to run and do some work. I think we've done enough here. I will talk to you folks later. Oh, and make sure that on Monday you all tune in for my live periscoping of the debates.